And so that very practically,
very
studying
very, very
the people.
helpful.
Yeah. Okay. Great.
Yeah.
Great.
Very helpful, man. And I actually want to stay here for a second because I think this is it. It's a very, very important topic as we think about only dreaming big, right? I mean, the amount of energy, frankly, that it takes in order to achieve something huge. And we talked about this in pre-show a little bit, so I'll bring people up to speed. But literally, folks, as you're continuing to listen to this pod, we're going to continue to push for this. If you have a question of whether or not your dream is big enough, then one of the questions I want you to ask yourself is, can you achieve this by yourself? If your answer is yes, then we are encouraging you. Your dream is not big enough.
Yes.
Period. Right? And so a significant aspect of that then, and so, I mean, once again, we could have a whole nother conversation probably about visualization.
Yeah.
Do you have like a vision board or, anything like that? Is that, or was that early on in your life? Like, or do you still find yourself driving through those neighborhoods? Like, how do you still do that for, say some of the more established professionals? What are some things that you still do in order to keep that vision, if you will?
Absolutely.
What you aspire to, like what are some things that you do now?
Yeah, great question, Danny. So one of the reasons why, let me be clear, I'm literally not any smarter than anybody else. But one of the things I do well, and I'm going to give myself credit for this, but hear me out. Don't see this as a statement of arrogance. It's a statement of what I do well is critique myself. And watch this. Every day, literally, I'm going, Anthony, what are the gaps? Where are the gaps in your life? Okay. And Dunny, I look for the gaps every day, and then I find people, resources, places, spaces that reflect helping me close that gap every day. Every day. I mean, incessantly, without letting off the gas at all. Every single day, I'm chasing closing the gaps in my personal life, which is why I don't have the energy nor time to focus on what gaps in your life and what you're doing and this, that. I got too much mess and space in my life, right? So it's, I'm not trying to hate on Dunny. I don't have time to hate on Dunny. In fact, the time I want to spend with Dunny is figuring out, one, how to support Donnie with living out his goals, his dreams, his ambitions, but also how do I learn so that with the gaps in my own life, I can close those gaps. And Donnie, I think many people give too much energy and credence and weight to things outside of the very essence of what they need to be focusing on, which are the gaps in their own life. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it completely does, man. That last part, frankly, it's probably something we should stay on a little bit more. As you talk about giving credence, to some of those things that frankly just don't impact, where you're looking to go. I mean, can you stay on that and talk about that a little bit more? I mentioned it actually in a conversation. I had the privilege, and I'll just emphasize this again, but I had the privilege to spend some time with ET and get coached by him for a little bit, and that was a huge part of what he actually shared with me was disciplining yourself into not entertaining the past. And folks have heard me say that before, but I mean, it's just it's such a powerful thing, I think, for those of us, frankly, everybody, right? The amount of times that we spend thinking about the past. And funny enough, I don't know how much you watch the NBA Finals, but one of the interviews that I think stood out to me the most was Giannis Antetokounmpo. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly. Had an interview, and they were asking him about the next game and some other things. And I'll summarize what he said in this way. He said, the past, that's when I focus on the past, that's my ego. Right. And when I focus on the future, that's pride.
Yeah.
Right. Like, oh, well, since I did this other stuff, like, of course I'm going to do this.
Yep.
but only by being present can I remain humble. And so as you think about, like, as you're talking about that piece about, not being able to, or for folks not being able to, afford basically to spend time, on things in their past, just talk a little bit more about that, for the people.
Yeah, man. So, and I want to calibrate that, because some people will make the argument, well, but if you don't know where you've been, you don't know where you're going, and blah, 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 and so here's my statement, all right? And you've heard me say this before. Most people overestimate who they actually are at the expense of underestimating who they have the ability to become. Right?
Ooh, wait, say that again, man.
Okay. Most people overestimate who they actually are, or where they actually are, at the expense of underestimating who they have the ability to become, or essentially where they have the ability to go. Now, watch this.
Ooh,
So it is important to acknowledge the past, but to the point you just made, but what was critical in the statement that I made just now is that the energy, most of the energy should be applied to where you are going, who you are becoming. So I'm going to honor and acknowledge who I am and where I've been, only for the sake of spending 80% of my time on where I'm going. Right? So give 10%, 20% energy to where you've been, because it's important to be honest, brutally honest, critically honest about where you've been. But let's talk about where we're going. And then let's put the infrastructure in place, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, psychologically, practically, education-wise, whatever you need in terms of infrastructure to support your journey forward. That's where your energy needs to be. Put your energy there and build brick by brick, point by point forward. And 80% of you, 90% of you even, should be focused on that.
Ooh, hey.
Let's go.
That's so good, man. Let's go. Underestimating, who you have the ability to be in the future, man. It's so powerful. So powerful. You talked about pushing and building, like, brick by brick a little bit, and I had shared this concept with you, before, and I'm curious, like, how you've seen this, in your own life, right? Have you reached a point, in life where, as we're encouraging people to push, and as you're pushing through your career, and you get to a certain level that you achieve, I found it personally that, and this probably aligns with your last statement, at some point I also need to kind of let go and have confidence that, like, the dream that I have is big enough, and I am the the right person to solve this, and I'm putting those systems in place, etc., where I'm putting myself in the right environments, and to the point where that it moves to a point where it's almost pulling you in that direction, as opposed to me pushing and removing obstacles and all of these things that I was doing kind of early on in my life. And that doesn't mean I'm not doing any work, right? But it's kind of an interesting kind of, I'll say, shift in some of my thinking, where it's just like, well, that's where I'm going. And once again, it doesn't mean there's no discomfort or anything else, but does that make sense? It's kind of something I'm experiencing a little bit more. Yeah,
it makes all the sense in the world. And so again, I have to simplify stuff. So, the simple thought for me, right, is program versus unprogrammed thinking. And so watch this. So brushing our teeth, washing our face, taking a shower, things that are programmed. Even, let's get more practical. There are physicians that are excellent surgeons that because they've done so many reps, they've programmed themselves to be able to perform surgeries, but those same brilliant and intelligent people, the minute they do something new that's unprogrammed, it creates a unique discomfort for them. And so here's the point. Repetition over time is how you take something that's uncomfortable because it is unprogrammed, you make it programmed. So what I'm hearing you say, kind of throwing it back at you from what you said is repetition in those environments. Is repetition with a big dream, right? You can't just have an every so often big dream. You literally have to dream that dream every single day. But more importantly, think about the steps it takes to live that dream out and take those steps practically every single day. And over time, each step becomes a program step. It moves from unprogrammed to programmed. And over repetition, it becomes second nature. So like you said, now all of a sudden, instead of you pushing it, it's pulling you, and because it's rep. And now it's programmed to where you get up every day and you on go in a bigger environment on a bigger dream because it's no longer uncomfortable. It's my normal now. In fact, and at a certain point, the big dream that used to be a big dream becomes small because you mastered it so well. Now you need another big dream.
Yep. Oh man. We gotta start winding down, man. But this is so good. Because there's one more thing that I'd love for us to be able to dive into, man. It's something that you shared with me a long time ago, and arguably one of the most powerful statements. I still hear you in my head regularly saying this to me. The power of creating versus catching.
Yes.
Once again, we don't have a lot of time to break that down, but I need you to talk about it just for a little bit, because it's literally one of the most powerful things you've ever taught me.
Yes. So to make it quick, and I'm watching our time here, man, most people catch opportunities. They catch them. They have been institutionalized in their thinking from childhood. It goes back to primitive years. From childhood, somebody's been telling you what to do, how to do it, where to be, what time to be there, etc. From parents' house to elementary school, preschool, elementary school, middle school, etc., all the way through college and even into the workforce. There are career professionals who simply catch the clock. They catch opportunities based upon what everybody tells them. The shift back to reprogramming your thinking is, how do I take the skills, gifts, and talents that I've been blessed with to start creating opportunity? Every one of us has the capacity to create forward. The challenge is, again, we're so programmed in our thinking that we don't think out of the box enough. And when we begin to think out of the box, it starts to get uncomfortable. And we revert back to the comfort of, man, I'll just catch it as it comes because that's what I'm used to. Creating opportunity forces you, requires you, mandates that you get out of your box and that you begin to think forward. And you have to become the battering ram. You have to create opportunities versus just simply catching them. And so that's a quick. We could go more, but I'm being sensitive to our time. But so that's my challenge to people. I want to challenge you to have a big dream, to have a massive dream and multiple dreams. But the key is you have to be willing to batter your way through the discomfort and put in the reps over and over and over and over and over again consistently until what feels uncomfortable becomes comfortable and what feels unnatural becomes natural. And all of a sudden down the line, you become a master at the thing you used to be uncomfortable with pursuing.
Anthony Flynn, founder of Amazing CEO, my brother. This has been absolutely amazing, man. So excited, for this to go out and for people to hear this. Thank you so much for your time. And for all the listeners out there, never forget, only dream big.
Man, peace. Let's go. Praise God.
If you like today's podcast, tune in to our social media to get updates on our next episode. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, at Only Dream Big Inc., and hit the subscribe button below.
That's all for today, folks. See you next time.